What's the crack, guys? And before we continue any further today, I just want to give a special shout out and a special thank you to everyone who has shown their support over the past few weeks. It has been a difficult period, but your blessings, thoughts, and prayers are greatly appreciated. Now, I understand that the majority of you aren't aware of what has taken place. I'm not going to share the information on video, but I did apply a post just a few weeks ago, so if you want to, you can go ahead and refer to it. What I will say here is, anyone who is suffering from any mental health issues such as depression or anxiety, you don't have to face it alone. Speak out to someone, talk to someone, no matter who it is, just try and sort of get it out. From someone who suffered from depression in the past, anxiety, I would have been gone about 14 years ago. I should be 6 feet under, to be honest. I understand that a lot of you are having difficulty at this present time. So I'm going to share some contact details at the bottom of the screen, and I really want you to get in contact with those people and reach out to them as some help. Alternatively, if you really want to, you can message me on Instagram at dm.react. I'm not one to judge, just pour out all your problems to me. I'm more than happy to listen, maybe try and provide some help or information or some advice in some regard. As a result of this, as you can imagine, the experiment has kind of went south. Everything has just been on the back burner, you could say, and hasn't really given much of a thought, to be honest. I will get back to the experiment, so don't be worrying about that. It'll probably be like a month or two down the line, and I'll be getting information from you guys first before any experiment is started. I have a few other things down the pipeline as well, which I'll not provide yet, but in due course. Today really is just going to be about Ireland. So Creepy TikToks, this is handpicked by myself, so this is to try and give everyone an insight into what's going on here in Ireland. Now, I want to say as well that there's this misconception that people think that we are like racists some way, but honestly we're not. You see, with what's happening over here, there is illegals coming here with no documentation whatsoever, military aged, and also there's no background checks to any of these people. As a result, we've been seeing a high rise in a lot of things, which will be shared with you in these clips. There'll be some Irish banter as well to go along with it. But anyway, let's go ahead, guys, and get cracking on.
People have been arrested for public order offences after two separate protests
The
took
6
place
o'clock
in Dublin
news.
City today. Hundreds of people took part
Hundreds.
in an anti-immigration protest.
Thousands.
at the Garden of
Eager,
Women
yeah,
at
thousands.
2 o'clock before travelling down O'Connell
Typical
Street
RT.
and to the Customs House.
They could have
Hundreds of
actually
people took
shown
part in a separate
how peaceful,
United Against Racism
patriotically
protest at
and
the
successfully
Spa on
people
O'Connell
stood
Street
there.
at the same time. More
But
than
what did they do?
300 Gardaí were in the city to police
What
the
did they do?
protests.
Hundreds snatched, hundreds.
US Secretary of
Bullshit.
State
So if the media aren't going to give it any coverage, I will. What I witnessed today on various different live channels was thousands of people show up. It wasn't anti-immigration, it was anti-illegal immigration. This is a problem that these news broadcasters are pasting people with racism, far right. Enough! We're not believing you. There was thousands of people there. And to say that the anti-racism people had hundreds. No, they didn't. There was millions of people watching today. So, media, wise up.
Propaganda mainstream like RTE News, BBC News, they can push all the narratives and the agendas all they want. They can call us far right wing, they can call us racists, they can call us whatever they want to call us. We could not give a toss, to be honest. The problem here is that a lot of people are still watching MSM as their daily take of news, and they're getting caught up in their narrative and their agenda into thinking that we are protesting against migrants, against immigration in general, which it obviously isn't the case. In fact, anyone who has come over to this country as a holiday to work or to study or to even set up a family would all tell you that we are far from racist people. The problem that we have is there has been so many cases of children being kidnapped, women and children being murdered, women and children being stabbed, among other things that you will see throughout this show. And we are fighting against illegal immigrants who are military aged with no background checks. What we want is for the government to actually do background checks to see if there's any previous convictions in their home country, and if so, just to deport them, take them back, because we are obviously not going to have them, because they're going to come over here and they're obviously going to attack our own people. So this is what's pretty much going on here, to be honest.
Eye-watering figures here to do with people and money. Does anyone know why this is increasing so rapidly, these figures? Is it something in the water?
Can we correlate that with things like a rising social media use?
Why are there so many people now jumping out with these needs? Where were they in the past when I was at school? I'd never heard of SEND.
You may have found, if you were at school in the 1960s or 1970s, that many of those children weren't in schools. They were in institutions of different types at that time.
They must have had better ways of dealing with them at that time. Let's go back to some of those ladies.
I've seen sites where families are swapping tips on how to get their children diagnosed.
I don't want to be too Daily Mail on this, but I do, but I am, yeah, not automatically accepting the plea of a mother saying that little Willie has got ADHD, when in actual fact the little Willie is just really badly behaved and needs some form of strict correction.
I don't know what the fix is. I just look back at years gone by. Those people were dealt with by whatever means. It was right at the time.
What comes down to parenting and what comes down to actually SEND issues.
Although we are obligated to supply this cover for the needs of these people, it appears to be a bottomless pit and a hole that we're throwing loads of money into. To stop this spend, fix the problem at source.
Let me tell you something. See, when it comes to ADHD, Asperger's, autism, whatever it may be, it's very real. It really is. And the fact that this man says to revert to the old ways back to the 60s and 70s, I mean, the fact he knows how children were treated back then, it was inhumane. And this was prior to any, prognosis or diagnosis, whatever it may be. This man is another scumbag, and the rest of them are scumbags as well. And they're ugly on the inside and on the outside. And the guy has a hard time with that, and he knows that himself. That's what his problem is. He's got a head like a busted bag of cabbage.
Ireland has erupted into absolute chaos lately, with even Conor McGregor saying, "Make Ireland great again." And here we have thousands of Irish folk chanting, "Get them out" in Dublin. But you won't see this in the news. Why don't you tag some mainstream news channels in the comments and ask them why? It's just like all the COVID protests where the BBC and Sky News pretend like it's not happening, even though there's 100,000 people protesting in Ireland. But what do the protesters think is going to happen? Do they honestly think the government will deport thousands of refugees? I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Honestly, no one's expecting to have thousands deported at this stage. What people of Ireland are expecting, however, is to at least have the expectation of holding a background check, because what's happening here is all the illegals who are coming through with no identification are just being brought through, put on buses, and then put into buildings or hotels or whatever it is. There's no background checks being done, and as a result of this, there's been a high rise in criminality, such as rape, murder, that sort of thing, to our women and children. In fact, women are actually in broad daylight. There is illegals coming up and are beating right in front of them and their children. That's how bad it is over here. Okay, so I'll give some context in regards to this clip. Now, as far as back as I can remember, there's always been a housing crisis in Ireland. And what's happened here is the contractors have just realised that these buildings, this project is to home the military-aged men from boats to buildings. And so they've refused it. And that's pretty much exactly what's been happening there. Now, for those of you who don't know as well, there has been a lot of hotels, a lot of B&Bs, buses that's been set on fire, over the past year or so to try and prevent all of these military fighting aged men being homed. But there truly is a war happening in this country, and I don't think any other country is aware of how bad things are here, to be honest.
More Fashion Week content is coming out every single day, and this one didn't sit right with me. Schiaparelli, or whatever it's called, is releasing some type of outfit or accessory, and it looks like a baby covered in microchips. Now, I don't think there's actually a human in there, but the way it's moving is very weird. Everyone was amazed at the Mason Margiela runway, but to me, it just kind of gave me this eerie vibe. Now, I know I don't know too much about fashion, but some of these outfits are just wild. But I do know one thing: the fashion industry is similar to the music industry in that there is a lot of symbolism and that every piece on the clothing has a meaning.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that fashion. Definitely not. I would say that's more satanic ritualism more than anything.
I have a secret weapon. My mate Matthew Short, he likes cars, the gym, and rollies, and that's it.
Oh, nice.
Right? He heard the podcast about the weight loss challenge, and he goes, McCann, I know there's a fucking savage inside of you, and I'm going to get it out of you. Right? So,
he's wrong.
This guy is fucking, he is insane. I love him to pieces. Absolutely nuts, right?
The short fuse, can we call him that?
So we go into the gym, right? And this is in a leisure centre, like. He goes in there, he's a knuckle-dragging ignorant bastard, right? He goes, right, McCann, we're going to do chest today, right? 36s. And I go, Short, I can't.
There's 36 kilo dumbbells, by the way.
36 kilo dumbbells.
That would be tough.
I was like, Short, I cannot lift that. And he goes, what the fuck are you standing here telling me you can't do this, can't do that? Get down there and fucking have a go at it. So then I got down, and he put the 36s on me, right? And I've got a janky wrist too, you know. So
I shake your hands like a fucking broken carrot in a socket.
so then I'm like pushing them down and like pushing them up, and I get two out of me. And he goes, that's it. And then I threw the dumbbells down, and he goes, see out there, that gets my fucking cock real hard. And I was like, Short, how many reps do you want me to do this? And he goes, let me tell you something about fucking reps. He goes, reps are for fruits, right? He goes, you just keep fucking lifting that there until your chest is about the bust out of your chest, cut it. Chest about the bust out of your chest. We do a trip to Asda, and he goes, right, grab a basket there, cut it, and whatever I throw into it, you fucking ate that this week and nothing else, right?
So demeaning.
He throws everything into the basket, right? He goes, for lunch you're gonna have a wrap every day. What kind of things would you put in your wrap? And I was like, oh, you know, like chicken, onions, peppers. And then I was like, Short, any chance we could knock a wee bit of cheese in that wrap? Like, even just the way you might. This guy grabs me by the throat in the middle of Asda and goes, don't fuck with me! I'm going to play you the voice note that he sent me this morning, right? So I wrote to him saying, sir, probably won't make the gym today because I got to record the podcast and then do a gig in Belfast tonight, right? And this is what he sends me this morning.
That's alright, lad, that's alright, no sweat, but I just want you to know that there'll be no fucking drinking at that gig, and if you're back down the road over here tomorrow morning, we'll be in the gym at 10, alright? Do you hear me? Do you fucking hear me? Do you hear me back in that gym? Thank you, have a nice time, record the podcast. Do you hear me? Do you hear me fucking barking at you? Sir, I'm terrified of this.
I tell you what, if you want a PT, that's the guy you need to go to right there. He'll not be long putting you in shape, like.
These are the actual remains of a true giant that you can go and see in Ireland. His name was Charles Byrne, and this is his story. Now, Charles was an impressive big boy. He actually became known as the Irish Giant, and he was an impressive 8.5 foot. Charles was born in 1761 in Ireland in the county of Londonderry. However, he isn't actually a true giant. His family, or his parents, were actually described to be quite actually little, but they had a little secret. They believed that because he was conceived on top of a haystack which was so high, the reason why they gave him such an unusual size. Charles decided to cash in on himself being a big boy, and I do mean his height. He decided to travel across to London. It is believed that when he arrived in Scotland on his way to London, he lit his pipe from a street lamp on one of the streets and caused an absolute sensation, and the word spread throughout the country about the giants, the big Irish giants. Charles was an absolute sensation among the elite ruling class across Britain back in the day. He was actually quite well educated and was said to be very well charming and made an absolute fortune. However, he was going to lose all his fortune. Due to poor health, it is believed that Charles wanted to return back to Ireland, so he cashed out his money and took his money in the form of banknotes, which he stored in his pocket. And don't forget, back then £10 was a considerable amount of money. However, unfortunately for him, he was pinch pocketed and lost the whole of his fortune. Not long after, Charles died at the age of 22. They said to underlying health conditions, but they do believe he had a quite severe drinking problem. You can actually go view his skeleton over in Ireland, but that's just full of the real life giant from Ireland. Ooh.
This isn't even the tallest Irishman. The tallest Irishman is over 12 foot, and his remains reside in Boston, I think, or Massachusetts. I'm sure someone over in the US would probably know that. But yeah, that's the tallest Irishman.
So do you know what Google named their graphic processor? My answer will shock you. Google's graphic processor is called Adreno, and Google's main web browser page is called Chrome. Google Adreno and Google Chrome. And you know what? The worst thing about it is, even with this information, people still choose to be asleep and choose to ignore it. They don't want to know the truth. They're too scared of the truth. But the truth is, these big organisations, these big celebrities, they're evil. Just pure evil.
We're watching. We don't feel safe in our country. People getting stabbed in broad daylight. This is not a safe country anymore. Why? Because when you commit a crime, you are given deportation papers, but it's up to you to leave. It's up to you to leave. You're not escorted out of here. If certain people hadn't been escorted out of this country, there wouldn't have been kids stabbed on the street. And all I care about are the women and the children of this country. And I will... Listen, when I was a kid, my mother used to tell me the truth will set you free. And the lies that they are telling us about what's going on to our people and what we have to put up with. I'm going to leave it at this, guys. Ireland, enough is enough! 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 Enough is enough!
It really is crazy with the shape our country is turning out to be. It really is. I mean, I live in a small town with about 2,000 people, maybe less, and there's this like homeless couple. Well, we don't know if they're homeless or not, but we always see them walking around, have a wee dog. Well, 2 nights ago, this woman walked into a shop, and when she came out of the shop, she seen this man with a hood up, and he was like up in this woman's face, and then he had his hand reaching into his back, and the woman seen a big sharp knife, and shouted down to the woman, says, "Look, listen, he's got a knife," and he just belted it. Now, for context, over here, there about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a paedophile that had come in and decided to live in our town. We had a flock of men that came up to the house and gave him 24 hours to move, and within those 24 hours, he was gone. So for something like this to happen would definitely not be happening in the town at all, because no one wouldn't dare to do it, if I'm honest with you. So this goes to show you where we're at.
Patrick, watching the Late Late Show on Friday night. Now brace yourselves, my friends, for this one. I switched on and to discover it was the selection process for Eurosong, a song that will leave Ireland, that will represent Ireland and the Irish people and what we are all about, my friends. And all I can say is we're finished. We are finished as a country. And before anyone jumps on their high horse and go, he's giving out now about certain orientations, I couldn't give 2 continental hoots what anybody is, but I don't need it slammed in my face on the Late Late Toy Show, or whatever you call that show was. Whatever hope RTE has of getting any one of us to pay a licence has certainly now, for me, gone out the window. I never watched such rubbish in all my life, starting with song number 1. Now, there will be a backlash. Do I care? Not at all. So we come on then, Patrick, to song number 2, which I'm sure was your favourite. And I watched the opening intro of this one walking around the streets of Macroom down in Cork with a beautiful cape, and let's just say you wouldn't see her out in a Haspra of a Sunday afternoon. But it wasn't just that. I said, look, I'm open-minded, she dresses like this, that's fine, and I'm sure she's a beautiful person. Until the name was dropped that Bambi Thug will now be the one to sing song number 2. And I said, Jesus, here we go again. Bambi, what's this one going to be like? But I want you to listen carefully to what my opinion is. I don't care what she dressed like, but on her back and her small ears listening, there was a slogan. And I said to myself, is this what we need now to win the Eurovision? Do we need someone now to shove this orientation in our faces to get votes? And she spoke about, that she's neither here nor there. Adults who know what I'm talking about. She's sort of somewhere in the middle. Binary, non-binary, can't get my head around it. It reminds me of bale and hay or straw. But that's okay too, I have no problem. But I'm just saying to myself, is this what we need for our young people to be seen at such a young age? A mother came to me during the week, in fact at one of the funerals, and she was quite distressed about a new programme that's coming in next year into the secondary schools in relation to all of this, relationships, sexuality and all of that. And she's very concerned about first years learning such stuff. Well, I will tell you, if I had a son or a daughter, they wouldn't hear anything about it until they're 18. Down right to nearly junior infants, you might hear in the schoolyard, well, you're this and you're that. And where are they hearing it? I hope not in the family home, but they are certainly hearing it on the television. The programmes are not suitable for children of a certain age. And then we have to have Bambi going around in her cape, telling us what she is and what she stands for. Thankfully, on social media, I would say 99% of the comments agree with me. But a few are saying, we live in a modern Ireland. Well, God help modern Ireland if this is what the people of Europe think that we are like. I know people will say that is old-fashioned, Mary Kelly. But what was wrong with Dana and all kinds of everything? What was wrong with Johnny Logan and Hold Me Now? What was wrong with poor old Linda Martin, who trampled twice over to win the Eurovision with Why Me? Well, I find myself this morning asking myself, why me? Why am I having to mention this? I think, my friends, that as parents especially, and I'm going to say it again, will you shelter them a little bit more? They're exposed to too much at too young of an age. And they were certainly exposed to this on Friday night. If we can only come up in a world or an Ireland that is so creative, both music, dance, culture and history, and the 6 songs that were presented were complete and utter rubbish, because we now have to send something that shows something that we are different. My dear friends, there's nothing wrong with being ordinary. There's nothing wrong with being who you are. But you don't have to trumpet it from the world. I don't have to go around with a flag out my window, the priest is coming. We don't see farmers going around in the New Holland tractor with a big flag, I am a farmer. We don't see the teachers arriving to school up the crossroads there, I am the teacher. Be who you are, but you don't have to make a song and dance about it. Speaking of song and dance, the poor devil, Bambi Thug, who we're singing over, she can neither sing nor she can dance, Mary Kelly, so we're finished from word go. Patrick, next year you and I were writing a song and we're going to Europe. So I'm afraid, my friends, I won't be booking any ticket to Malmo in Sweden this year, and whatever Bambi votes she gets, I wish her well. So, my friends, as we gather here at the shrine on this Sunday, let us come back into the reality of life.
I couldn't give 2 continental poops is a line I thought I would never hear coming from a priest. Ever, like. But in terms of Bambi Thug, if you don't know already, she's the Eurovision contestant then for Ireland, who's going to be representing Ireland. It's a trans dressed as the devil. And the priest has a point here, you know, be who you want to be. That's fine. If you feel that that's who you are or that's what you want to be, then, you know, we aren't going to change your mind. just don't throw it in our faces, don't throw it in our children's faces to the point where you feel that, you know, our perceptions or our opinions or values or morals need to be changed or altered to satisfy what you believe.
I think y'all just wrote my next song. That's a hit right there.
Go on the Scots. Shout the truth, hey. Shout the truth.
Schools and teachers. Now, I understand you've got a difficult job because you have to deal with stressful parents like myself and also bad pupils. I get that. But one of the things I can't understand is you get paid minimum of £29,000 plus to about 40,000. Before you say anything, it would minimum 28, 42, 44. Different areas, different amounts. The problem I've got is you have 8 paid weeks holiday a year. 8. Normal people, the general public, are lucky to get 2 weeks. Some get 4. So basically you get double what normal people get. And the biggest problem I have is you strike. So when you strike, you have to send the kids home. So all the other parents have to take a day's holiday or lose a day's pay to look after the kids, which you are paid for to do. But then you have teacher training days. And with teacher training days, instead of doing the school holidays, which you are paid for because you get paid up for your holidays, you send the kids home. And again, parents have to suffer. They have to suffer financially. So I don't get it. Since we're going on the concept of schools and how stupid they are, teaching kids about sex education from the age of 6. And before anybody says that, I've seen the Jigsaw thing, I had a look at it, and I have a lot of parents who go, yeah, but you've got to teach kids about certain things about like, yeah, when it comes to the pubescent stages, or changing, obviously development, I get that. But my 10-year-old daughter asking me, see if I ejaculate, is not acceptable. Before any other parent goes, oh, you know what you're talking about, go have a look at the Jigsaw puzzle. They talk about IVF, they talk about vulva, they talk about penetration, they talk about anal, they talk about everything. And then they turn around and say, yeah, but it's to educate the children, you know. No, it's grooming. It's grooming kids. Because why does a 6-year-old to a 10-year-old need to know about vulva, penetration, ejaculation, anal, IVF? Why? I'm actually a Christian, and it was not that long ago I was christened, and I follow my religious beliefs to stipulate boundaries and moral guidelines to follow my faith. Go to the public sector and look at humanity and laws and rules. It states in section 12 and section 8 not to go against religious beliefs. Now, I know it says in the Bible exactly this, and I fundamentally feel that teaching children is teaching kids about sex and anal and all that, is teaching them about sinning. Now, if anyone says, no, it's educating, no. Right, if you put a red button on a table and say, kids don't press it, what do? They go press it. So you're literally telling the kids about certain things which is going to intrigue their knowledge, and they're going to want to learn more about it. They're 6 to 10. It is a fundamental breach of human rights, because if I was any other religion, which I'm not going to state any other religion, you would not do that. You would respect it. And unfortunately, being a British citizen in this world right now, you are underprivileged completely. It don't matter what colour you are. You go to schools to take your kids there. They literally tell you when you can collect your kids. They literally tell you if you can take your kids out on holiday. And if you take your kids out of holiday without in the school term, you get fined. Have you ever looked at the actual permission slip, what you put in to take your kids? I request permission to take my kids out of school. Honest to God, and I know, honestly, I have to take a breather then, because it infuriates me how delusional people are. Kids are not property, so you have dodgy parents obviously using weaponized concepts of weaponizing kids, and then now you're getting the schools and the government's weaponizing kids. Does nobody see that? Am I the only one? Don't even get me started on the concept of genders or anything like that, because that subject is for another video. But the problem I've got right now is I am sick to death of the privileged government and the privileged concept of anyone who works for the government striking, taking training days, and the general public, us, get penalised for it. They've just spent 3 years or 2 to 3 years, and kids was at home and they've lost so much education. And then it's like, oh, we're teacher training day. You had 3 years. Why don't you educate yourself to be a fucking scientist and leave this planet or something? Because I don't understand it. Oh, yeah, but we was getting paid. You just chill out and that. I don't care. Do you know what the thing is? The government is the biggest problem in this world. But you know, when it comes to the education of the children, let me just tell you the reasons why they're manipulating, brainwashing the kids. Is because the kids are the next generation of people. Now, if they can brainwash the kids now at such a sensitive age, then they're easier to manipulate as they get older. Now, if you're a parent like me and you love your kids, which I'm assuming that you fucking will be, make sure, wherever the school is educating your kids, make sure you point out if it's factually right or wrong, and make sure you educate the kids on some of your traditional concepts and beliefs, because if it carries on going the way it is, because I see so many kids who are disrespectful, that don't pay attention, that literally neglect the concept of being a decent human being. If they keep going like that, the next generation, who's going to be looking after us as elderly? Who's going to be helping the... Can you imagine all these Generation X kids who obviously believe in multiple genders and all that bollocks? When you're an older person and you say you're going to come look after me as obviously as you get older, like I'm looking after my mum because my mum gave me, like, they're going to go, no, we don't do that because we're generation stupidity. Look at the bigger picture. Educate your kids. Give them moral guidelines. Give them fucking some religious belief, or put them in a concept of actually normality, because the schools are not helping your kids and they're not helping you, and neither is the government. So get that in your head.
I completely agree with a lot of things that he's saying here. You know, if you're a teacher and you're teaching 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds about anal and other debauchery things, then to me, you're a scumbag. You really are. Especially if you're a teacher who knows that it's morally wrong to be teaching those kind of things, but you're teaching it anyway. I'm sorry, but you're not strong enough to fight for what's right. Caption what you think he said in the comment section. You have to love some of these time traveler stories, you know. I mean, they predict so many things, but yet there's zero probability. From what I recall, not one thing is actually happened or come true. In fact, I'd be more of a time traveler. I can tell you for certain tomorrow that you will eat, you will sleep, you will take a big dump, and you will pay taxes. And how do I know? Because I am the real time traveler.
Hello, how are you getting on? So as we all know, World War III is coming soon. So I thought I'd teach you some self-defense tactics you can use with household items if you find the enemy in your home. Okay, so the enemy walks in. First of all, a verbal warning. Get out, you cunt! Get out now, you will not get any of our treasures, and you better not be claiming the fucking dole. If he doesn't retreat at this point, we must take physical action. This is when you grab your limited edition Art Deco Stanley mug and you strike the enemy, and if he does not go down, we strike again in a final decisive blow. You can also fill your cup with a hot beverage to cause further damage to the enemy. I like to fill it with Lion's tea because it tastes like complete piss. You could fill it with Barry's tea, but that may increase enemy morale. If you don't have a Stanley, you could use another trending mug, but I haven't tested it. Follow me, I'm delicious.
If I ever come to your house for a cup of tea and you serve me up a Lion's tea, I'll know exactly what do you think of me.
And remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they would.
It's no secret how bad the water is over here in Ireland, whether you're from the north or the south. Over here in the north, you know, there was news last year that there was high levels of aluminum that was detected in the water, and as a result, there was a high cases of cancer. But this isn't happening just in Ireland. This is happening all over the world because, I mean, at the end of the day, they're spraying nothing but chemicals in the sky, left, right, and centre. So what do we expect when it comes to the drinking water, you know?
I don't know if it's just me, but I got a weird feeling about these Apple Vision headset things. I mean, it does feel like a Black Mirror episode. Everyone is in their own virtual world. Apple basically took virtual reality to the next level. It's like having your phone or laptop in your head. Check this out.
It's as though we're witnessing the slow process of integration or transitioning into like transhumanism, isn't it? When you think about it, you know, these people are going to be walking around with these goggles and it's going to be their new life, and they're going to be releasing all the oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, whatever it may be, when and how they please. And the problem I would have with that is the more they do that, their hippocampus is going to shrink, which is going to, you know, cause memory effects, and then it's going to end up falling into depression and that sort of thing. And so what I'm getting at here is, when they make that a habitual thing or like normality, where they're constantly walking around with these goggles all the time, when they don't have those goggles, how are they going to interact in life in general on a day-to-day basis? Like, how's that going to affect their communication, you know, with people, work? So you sort of see where I'm getting at.
So Tony Blair and Lord William Hague have put their heads together and come up with a plan. They're proposing to sell our NHS medical records to create personalised AI doctors.
Just listen to this.
As well as a future of new cures and treatments in Britain. It sounds all so lovely, doesn't it? So
No, it
why
doesn't.
are we all deeply cynical about this? Well, have a listen to what Tony Blair said recently.
And I also think...
Listen to this.
This issue to do with the technology and the digital infrastructure, I just want to emphasise how important I think that is. Because in the end, you need the data. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't.
No, you don't.
Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple.
If he's involved in it, it's bad. Sir Tony Blair, where the fuck did that come from, by the way? Should be in prison for war crimes. This is scary, this. This is ridiculously bad. Especially with AI, obviously. We all know what's gone on over the weekend. Loads of celebrities adding stuff leaked, which is just, it's madness. We need to know who's been vaccinated and stuff like that. Get to fuck. The WEF as well, honestly. If anybody listens to them people and listens and takes them serious and thinks they're good ideas, you need locking up yourself, or you need your head testing or checking.
What's happening here is literally criminal. I mean, the fact that they're selling our medical records to see who is and who isn't is just an absolute joke. But in terms of the NHS, whether we like it or not, it's collapsing, and it's collapsing by design. In fact, any kind of basic research would show that BlackRock, I think it was from 2012, has been slowly overtaking the NHS and throwing it into the private sector. And a study was conducted a few years back as well, where the NHS doctors, around 74% of them were actually working in the private sector as well. So it's all by design. I mean, anyone over here in the UK and Ireland, to get through a doctor is an absolute joke. It's like a call center. You know, they tell you to ring up at 8:30 in the morning, and as soon as you ring up at 8:30 in the dot, you're like 34th in the queue.
The Banshee is a supernatural being in Irish folklore that is believed to be a disembodied soul connected to the realm of death. Its appearance is often associated with imminent death and is typically associated with Irish families, with every old Irish family believed to have its own Banshee. The Banshee's cry is legendary and can be heard from a distance, with some tales describing it as a blood-curdling scream or a beautiful call that lures people to their deaths. Although their appearance and cry may vary across legends, one thing is consistent: they are a harbinger of death. Banshees have been a part of Irish mythology for centuries, with stories dating back to the 1300s, and their legend is rooted in real history, with old Irish traditions of keeners who were hired to wail and sing at someone's graveside.
I definitely believe in banshees. My auntie passed away a few years ago, and about a week or two prior to her passing, I heard a banshee about 5:30 in the morning. Now, the sound is very distinctive. You'll never hear a sound like it. And the best way to describe it is like a cat crying like a baby. But they say that if you ever look out, or if you ever make eye contact with a banshee, the banshee actually takes your life. So, but yeah, creepy, like really is creepy.
Man steps out
for his first walk in public after spending $20,000 to transform himself into a dog. If there was ever a time where I wished I was joking about a video, it would be this.
Another little doggy. He's scared. He's scared because you're much bigger. Hello.
A Japanese man by the name of Toku recently spent a staggering $20,000 to transform himself into a border collie. So this man identified as a dog and decided he can't just identify as one, he needs to look like one. And y'all still think this type of stuff is normal? This is not normal. Next, he's gonna want a female companion that's also a dog. And when it gets to that point, it's now reached the stage of bestiality. Do y'all realize they try to reward mental illness nowadays? They're weaponizing stupidity and ignorance. I don't know if you guys have realized this. Don't step into that dark place. Seek Christ, find the light of God, because only that will save you spiritually. This is a spiritual war, and many people get caught up in it because they don't know how to overcome it. And the only way to overcome it is understanding what it is. It's a spiritual war, and we fight that war with the Word of God. The Word of God is Christ Jesus. So while many people are falling in that dark loop, come out with the Lord. The Lord is saying, come out. The Lord is saying, come home. God bless.
Do you know what I say? Fair play to him. If he wants to act like a dog, he can act like a dog. I mean, we all know that there's too many men in this world nowadays who are acting like a bunch of pussies. Let's be honest. Do you know what? I just found out last week that broccoli, cauliflower, and tomatoes are actually genetically modified. They're man-made, like all of them, every single one of them. So yeah, I wasn't happy about that because I love broccoli. But yeah, grim.
So I blocked all my exes and then decided to do another parasite cleanse. So this time I got apple cider vinegar, clay, and Epsom salt. I was missing the baking soda, but this works just as well. So I laid in there, put my feet in there in the hot water, and I'm not gonna lie, that is a parasite, guys. This works. That white thing, another parasite. My feet got pale, but also they have red dots all over them, which I don't understand. That's another parasite, guys. Disgusting. That came out of me, like insane. And then, okay, those are hairs, but then the white thing that's floating around, I don't know what that was. And this is another parasite. Like, I'm in disbelief. I'm going to try it again next week with baking soda to see if it works better. But this was insane. I'm actually really grossed out.
I thought I would go ahead and add this clip into the mix, and the reason being is because I know a lot of yous were, from previous videos, were wanting to know how to get cleansed from parasites. So I thought I'd add this clip into it for you to try it out. I'm going to try it myself as well at some stage, to be honest. That is definitely something I would do.
The Irish government is proposing a law known as the Hate Speech Bill that threatens free speech. This law could have dire consequences for our democracy.
Next week, next month, and then on to the next week.
This law will have uncertain effects on artistic and musical expression. Please support us. It could stifle the activity of public campaigning on political and civil issues, and also curtail speech relating to topics about religion, ethnicity, sex, and gender. You could even be jailed for possessing documents, cartoons, or memes on your devices, even if you never read them or intended on sharing them. Mere possession could make you a criminal under this law. Help stop this law. Visit www.freespeechireland.ie/take action to bin the hate speech bill.
Yeah, this is where we are here in Ireland. It's an absolute joke. It really is. Like, over here in Ireland, we have banter where we scoff each other. And even if you're caught scoffing each other through like WhatsApp or something, they can actually prison you for that, which is just pathetic. It really is. But also, me doing this kind of thing here can actually get myself imprisoned for doing what I'm doing. So if you can, guys, if you can smash that like button, and if you can share it as well to other like-minded people. And also, if you haven't already, you may as well go ahead and subscribe as well. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry, but that's disgusting. A 4-year-old we're talking about, and that's being showed to them. You see, people like that. What needs to happen to them is there needs to be a lesson learned to the point where not only them but other like-minded people just like them would definitely get the hint where they'll know not to do it next time.
The censorship law that Ireland may pass is the most draconian censorship initiative anywhere in the world right now. The idea that the police could go into people's homes and read their computers and read what's on their phones and even confiscate them, take them to jail if they refuse. This is out of the dark ages. This is not something that we would expect from a modern, progressive country like Ireland. So I was very delighted to come here and speak out against this, try to understand what's happening. I spent a couple hours this morning interviewing people on the street. And what I discovered is that very few people that we interviewed had even heard of this law. And even the people that had heard of it had no idea that it would empower the police to invade people's homes. So I think there's something really pathological about censorship. I think there's something wrong with you if you want to silence your fellow citizen. And we need to speak out against that. And we need to remind ourselves why free speech is the foundation for our civilized societies. I mean, this is a law that could result in the imprisonment of innocent people, of people expressing their free speech. It opens itself up to an abuse of power. We know that many politicians are very narcissistic and they don't like to be criticized. So imagine them then sending the police to go and confiscate the telephones and the computers of their political opponents. All of that would be legal under this law. And so what you're talking about is a really dangerous crackdown. It's really the destruction both of free speech and of democracy, because you're talking about potentially criminalizing necessary political speech that people need to be able to share. The other thing I was going to say is that the way that we reduce hatred is through dialogue, is through conversation. No society ever in human history has reduced prejudice or hatred through censorship. Censorship has only been used as a means to oppress. It's never been used as a means to liberate. Free speech is often the first thing that marginalized groups demand and get in the march towards freedom. And we need to remind people that we don't help anybody by trying to silence the people we disagree with.
And obviously you're here from the States, you have a huge platform in America. One of the things we've seen, I think it's fair to say, is that this law and this discussion around free speech in Ireland has actually driven a lot of international coverage, a lot of international attention has been received. I'm sure for you that's an indication of how worrying this law is perceived to be from a lot of people.
Well, it was really thanks to Gripped Media that we heard about this. We saw that Ben Scallon had been asking tough questions of the Prime Minister, of different senators. None of us knew about it. We really didn't believe it because most of us think that Irish are some of the friendliest, kindest people in the world. So we were shocked to learn that they were seriously considering this kinds of legislation. It seemed like something out of the Spanish Inquisition or something out of the Dark Ages. We created a star chamber to judge people for their views. And so we were shocked by it. When we read more about it and learned about the bill and spoke with people in Ireland, we realized it was true, that this was seriously being considered. It had already passed the Parliament and was going to the Senate. So we knew we had to do our part to help. Americans, we have many Irish people in the United States. The immigrants came from Ireland for over the last century. So we have a deep affection for the Irish people. Many of us visit Ireland as tourists. Many Irish come to the United States. So we really do feel that that brotherly and sisterly love, and so we felt an obligation to join our friends here and speak out about this.
Have you seen similar attempts to criminalize speech in America as well?
Yeah, in the United States, we have very strong free speech protections in our First Amendment of the Constitution, but we have seen the rise of a censorship industrial complex that was working secretly behind the scenes to demand censorship of disfavored views by Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms, by NGOs with close ties to the government. And there's now a big case that is almost certainly going to go to the Supreme Court, where the attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana sued the Biden White House for the Biden administration's pressure on social media companies to censor individuals. So that's now in the courts. We're hoping for a big victory, but ultimately we have to change hearts and minds, because I think there's just a lot of intolerance in the people that want to censor. They are often quite privileged people that don't like the discomfort of having people disagree with them. And so I think it's a kind of narcissistic rage or a kind of antisocial disorder that they want to shut down these different voices.
You are a very high-profile journalist. For you, what is the importance of having independent media which is not state-funded and is there to create an alternative platform for people?
I don't think you can get the truth anymore from the mainstream media, whether it's state-funded or corporate-funded. It's all about the small, independent, scrappy media companies like Gript or like Public, our Substack publication. People have to have desire to get to the truth. You can't get to the truth by letting the truth come to you. You have to go out and get it. You have to go out and ask the hard questions. You have to go and get the data. You have to go read the responses like Ben Scallon did. That's true journalism. True investigative journalism is assertive, it's proactive, it's aggressive, it's disagreeable. It doesn't accept what we're being told. So really you can't get the truth unless you get it from independent media. And that's why people need to support independent media. Consider making your donation to independent media, because it's hard to get the facts from the corporate media. They distort the facts, they advocate censorship. So for me, much more important to support independent media right now than to support some NGO, many of which are funded by billionaires who don't live in Ireland, who don't care about Ireland, and are persecuting and prosecuting a particular political agenda.
Finally, do you have a message for our Irish lawmakers who are behind this law, who have pushed this legislation? Would you have a message for them?
Well, I think they need to know that the world is watching them. People know who Helen McEntee is at this point. We know that she's the Justice Minister of Ireland. We also see heroes like Senator Keegan, who are speaking out, speaking for free speech. And so we're paying attention. I don't think Americans have paid this much attention to Ireland in a very long time. And I think we're waiting for the Irish people to rise up and speak out for free speech. We're on the side of the ones that want open dialogue, open disagreement, not this secretive government police kind of home invasion approach to dealing with disagreement.
We're literally the first country to be a test subject for the New World Order, and they're going to try anything and everything to try and silence us. And the sad thing about it is that if there's no rise to it, it's going to spread far and wide across the globe, across every country. And then what kind of hope would that be? But I'll leave it at that. I can't say too much.
Look, according to Senator Tom Clonan earlier this week, a child in Ireland has become permanently paralysed while waiting for complex spinal surgery, and he accused Health Minister Stephen Donnelly of showing contempt for the Seanad by not coming to the chamber or sending a representative to discuss the matter.
I know of at least one child who has become permanently paralysed since we raised this issue before Christmas. And I think it's of great interest that the Minister nor any of his representatives have actually turned up here to listen to a commencement matter. And I don't know, Chair, is that a precedent? It is an affront to this House, and it is an affront to the 150 children who are in pain as we speak. A child has become permanently paralysed. That is completely and utterly unacceptable. And the Minister can't even bring himself to come in here and answer a commencement matter, and shows contempt for the House and its processes.
So how can the public have confidence in our health system given incidents like this?
Well, look, I don't know the detail of that particular case, but I do know that there are a lot of children who are waiting far too long for complex spinal surgery that they need. There's been a lot of government investment, additional theatres, a whole new hospital that will be open next year with a lot better infrastructure and also additional investment in staff and consultants and nurses. And I think there is an opportunity as we move to the new hospital next year to make sure that the spinal service there is world class and top class, and that's what we're working on.
Okay, thanks very much, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honestly, if this doesn't show you the level of negligence and corruption within this country, I honestly don't know what will. But yeah, thoughts and prayers are with this wee boy and his family.
So last week, Congolese asylum seeker Kadima Mbuye was jailed after he entered into a room where a woman was recovering from surgery at UHL and proceeded to masturbate at the foot of her bed. He had 8 previous convictions, mostly for similar offences. If Ireland's international protection system is fit for purpose, how did Mbuye manage to stay here as an asylum seeker for almost 10 years and never have his claim either upheld or denied, allowing him to commit multiple sexual offences?
So I'm not going to comment on any individual case.
But he was here for 10 years and he was neither approved or denied as an international applicant, an international protection applicant. That seems like a very long time.
I'm not going to comment on any individual case. Obviously, every case is different and has to be treated differently. But we have very clear rules. We have very clear procedures here. But I won't comment on individual cases.
And Minister, you've previously...
You would like to think that this is a one-off, wouldn't you? But you'd be wrong. This has actually been happening quite a lot. In fact, a woman was sitting watching TV. She had a chair by the window and she happened to look out and there was a guy doing what he was doing, staring at her. Just an absolute creep. But yeah, this is where we're at.
Madden va Accorda, Constashif. Lads, have we all seen the video by now of the young one going to the gym? If you haven't seen it, it's widely available to see. I was tagged in it, and when I saw it, it was at about 42,000 likes, so it's viral. This girl was about 5'2", she said. Young girl, I'd say early 20s, if that, and she was just trying to go to the gym, and she got stalked, chased, like a game of cat and mouse, up and down the road, across the road. Every time she stopped, he stopped. The girl was terrified, hysterical, screaming, crying to her dad on the phone. She runs into a shop, right, and the woman inside the shop phones the guards. Your one phones the guards. Your man's in and out of the shop saying nothing, just stalking her down, standing at a petrol pump, stalking her down. She's crying out the window and he's still standing there stalking her. Goes into the shop and asks her if she wants to go fucking shopping. The woman in the shop tells him to leave. He stands outside, staring at her. The guards don't even show up. 25 minutes later, she rings them back. Oh, we're doing a shift change. We'll get someone down to you as soon as we can. She said, can I just go home? She went home, obviously chatted the situation out with people at home, then came upstairs to her room and had time to make the video, and the guards still hadn't arrived. They were very fucking quick to Ross Gray though, weren't they? Second-class citizens on our own soil. That poor girl was terrified. She was terrified. And wouldn't you be? She has a screenshot up of the man, right? He's very tall, broad, older than her, clearly. You'd shit yourself. But that's the current situation that we're all facing right now. You're walking up the road, you don't know who you're dealing with, you don't know what kind of laws they follow, what kind of customs they have, how they see women and children. You just don't know. You're shitting yourself walking up your own fucking street because you don't know who you're dealing with and what way they're going to react to anybody. That poor girl ran into that shop because she didn't know what was going to happen. She was in fear. Oh, but hang on though. Wait though. She did have an idea of what could happen. Because, I mean, we've had a similar story before, haven't we? Where a young girl is just outside trying to exercise, trying to be healthy, and gets fucking murdered for it. Yeah? Have we heard that story before? Aisling Murphy. Never forget her name. This girl could have been a carbon fucking copy of that. And why? Because the government, even after seeing what's happening to its people, why the people they're letting in are still letting the people fucking in. Where's our army now, huh? Have they just forgotten about us, or what's the crack like? Because, I mean, if they are listening and they are out there, like, you have a lot of support, a lot of it, and we'd all really like you to come back out of hiding, please.
The sad thing about this is that the women have become psychologically affected to the point where they're afraid to leave their houses. And this isn't just happening here and there. This is happening quite frequently, quite rapidly. and you're only being shown what mainstream media wants you to show. But I can tell you that this is happening quite a lot in this country, and you know, there's only so much that the men of this land can take before we start to do something about it, you know. But it really is sad. And again, I want to reiterate, this isn't about, you know, migrants or immigration in general. This is about military aged men who's coming into the country with no identification, no background searches or anything like that. That's what it's about. So please don't think that we are a country that is racist, because we're really, really not.
Control it, Travis! Control it!
What's wrong?
Pick my ball up, wee fruit.
Jordan, where's the ball?
Up there. Hurry up. See if you get me stinking wee fruit. Get it?
Don't get in it now. I need to get up.
You me a tenner, dickhead. No, you won't. Fuck off, Darnell. No, fuck off, Darnell. Go away. So?
You're gonna get me stinking, you wee fruit.
Have you seen Oliver Plunkett's head? This is the Archbishop of Armagh, primate of all Ireland, who was falsely accused of treason in 1681 as part of the Popish plot, the alleged conspiracy to kill the king. And he was hanged and drawn and quartered at Tyburn, but remained incredibly calm throughout, considering he'd heard the Lord Chief Justice pronounce sentence. You shall be hanged by the neck, but cut down before you are dead. Your bowels shall be taken out and burned before your face. Your head shall be cut off, and your body divided into 4 quarters. Now, those body parts were sent to Ireland and England and Germany and Rome, and an order of nuns got hold of his head and took it to Drogheda in Ireland and preserved it and kept it secret from the British for 200 years. Now, Saint Oliver Plunkett is now the patron saint of peace and reconciliation in Ireland, and his 450-year-old preserved head can be seen at St. Peter's Church in Drogheda.
It's crazy how much faith this man had, to the point where he didn't even fear death, you know, being spoken about those words about what's going to happen, and yet he didn't take a flinch out of it. He may have lost his head, but that's about it, you know. And for those of you who don't know what he looks like, here he is here, and there you go.
I heard this stuff going around and it was so ridiculous that I thought it's obviously just a conspiracy theory, until I went onto the government website and downloaded the document myself. The 39th Amendment to the Constitution, the Right to Housing Bill, and it's actually the Right to Take Your House From You Bill, right? This is a bill that was brought in by Richard Boyd Barrett, Mick Barry, Gino Kenny, Paul Murphy and Breed Smith, all those absolute headbangers, right? And it's 2 changes to the Constitution, and I'm going to read out 2 little paragraphs to you there. The state in particular recognises the common good as including the right to secure, affordable, dignified housing appropriate to need for all the residents of Ireland, and shall guarantee this right through its laws, policies and the prioritisation of resources. Okay, fair enough. The state accordingly shall delimit the right to private property where it is necessary to ensure the common good and to vindicate the said right to housing for all residents of Ireland. Not citizens of Ireland, residents of Ireland. So delimit the right to private property. What this means is, if you live in a 3-bedroom house and there's you and the missus and the kids grow up and move out, and there's only you and the missus left, you've no longer a need for a 3-bedroom house. A 1-bedroom apartment will do you. This bill, if it's enacted, will give the government of Ireland the right to come into your house, take that house from you and give you a smaller house. And the crazy thing is, people are saying, oh, out with the government. This wasn't brought in by the government. This was brought in by the crazy, loony, left-wing politicians. So it was introduced by deputies Richard Boyd Barrett, Mick Barry, Gino Kenny, a fellow Clondalkin man, an absolute fruitcake, Paul Murphy and Breed Smith. If you think the people that are there now are bad, wait till you see the people that's coming next. This is absolute communism. This is like Chairman Mao back in China, taking the land, taking the property to give it to the residents of Ireland. So that means that once you're in Ireland and you're a resident there, you have the same rights as the citizens of Ireland, which means somebody can come in and the government can deem that they need your house more than you need your house, and the government can take that off you. Be very careful of any of the socialist parties. Now, people might say, oh sure, that's a conspiracy theory. Look, I downloaded this off the government website, oireachtas.ie. This is what we're up against, lads. If you think the people that are there are bad, wait till you see who's coming after. This is communism. This is going to bankrupt the country. The good thing is it has to get passed by way of a referendum. Hopefully it never gets that far, but just be very aware of it. I don't get involved in any of these conspiracy theories and I still wouldn't believe it, only for I downloaded it from the government website myself. Now here's a little bit of a conspiracy theory for you. I posted a video about this on my social media yesterday. It's been shared 130 times and it's got 4,000 views in 130 shares. That just doesn't make sense. A typical video of mine will get about 10k views and maybe 10 or 15 shares. It shares a multiplier on the internet. I'm like, why is the video not getting views representative of the amount of shares I had? And it's making me ask, is this the big tech reducing the reach of this message? And that's why I said I'll send it around. I'll let you make your own mind up on that.
This is just a small demonstration to show how our own people are being treated in their own country. But yeah, this is just a snippet of it. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. So we know that when it comes to chemtrails usually widen and then they stay there for like a prolonged period of time. However, the person who took this video stated that that wasn't the case, and the sky was kind of blasted and yellow rain came falling down. So I don't know.
Ready to be scared? Welcome to Tales from the Graveyard. Whilst this graveyard appears to be normal, inside you'll find a fairy's mount, said to be home to the Red Caps. This particular type of fairy folk are feared throughout Ireland, and rightly so. Most of the Irish will avoid the places the Red Caps are said to lurk. However, legend says you can approach them for favours, but in return they will want to take your firstborn child. Should you fail to meet the terms, the fairy folk will not only take revenge on you, but your family for generations to come.
The amount of mythology and tales and folklore and creatures that we have over in our culture is just, it's wild, like it really is wild.
Want to get creeped out? Let's talk about the real Hellfire Club. And this is not at all like Stranger Things, unfortunately, but it's wild, trust me. I'm so excited to tell you about it. As you may have figured out from this intro, the real Hellfire Club was not just a bunch of kids sitting around playing D&D. It would be cool if it was, but that just wasn't what it was. The real Hellfire Club has components of murder, paranormal entities, sacrifices, and even a visit from the devil himself. So stay with me. But also I will be giving a trigger warning later because it does get very dark. The Hellfire Club was a name given to several exclusive clubs for high society rakes, which are immoral people. And these were established in Ireland in the 18th century. These clubs were for people who wanted to take part in immoral acts and were normally people who were in politics. The club also allegedly had distant ties to an elite society called the Order of the Second Circle, which I'm going to be looking into as well. One of the most famous Hellfire clubs was ran by the Duke of Wharton. He was a politician, but basically had a second life where he was known as a drunkard, an infidel, and a rake. The Duke's Hellfire Club was a satirical gentleman's club. The club was known to ridicule religion, however, they did this more out of shock value and not to actually be a serious attack on religion. It was said that the president of the club was actually the devil, however, these people did not worship the devil or demons or anything of that nature, but they did actually call each other devils. Another thing about this club is that they actually admitted both men and women equally, which was not the norm for the time. The club would hold mock religious ceremonies and have really interestingly named dishes, such as Holy Ghost pie, breast of Venus, and the devil's loin. They would drink hellfire punch, and different members of the group would come dressed as different religious characters from the Bible. At this point, the clubs start to get a little bit more like culty. So there was a commonly known Hellfire Club of Sir Francis Dashwood's. The club had a motto, Fais ce que tu voudrais, which means do what thou wilt. Fun fact, Benjamin Franklin was actually said to take part in some of these meetings in 1758 during his time in England. Eventually, these meetings were moved into a series of tunnels and caves and would be decorated with mythological themes, phallic symbols, and other items of schmexual nature. Some of these meetings lasted a week or longer. The members would dress in white ritual clothing, and a leader, which they called the abbot, would be dressed in red ritual clothing. Now, this is where we get to the place where the club is starting to be held in a building that is very haunted, and things just take a turn. It just gets very wild. So now I'm going to tell you about Montpelier Hill, which is in Dublin, Ireland, and is more commonly known as Hellfire Club. And I'm going to give you a little snippet of a description that I found about the hill. On a windswept slope in the Wicklow Mountains near the summit of Mount Pellier, with a commanding view overlooking Dublin City, lies the burnt and blackened shell of a sinister old hunting lodge, now called the Hellfire Club. Follow along for part 2, it gets wild. Want to get creeped out? Let's talk about the real Hellfire Club, and I'm so excited because it's wild. Part 1 was how this club started out as basically a satirical gentleman's club that got kind of culty, and now it gets wild. I just gave a little description in the last video of Mount Pellier Hill, which is in Dublin, Ireland, and more commonly known as Hellfire Club. This was not a bunch of kids sitting around playing D&D, as fun as that would be. This has paranormal entities, crime, a visit from the devil himself. It just gets so wild. This ruined building at the summit of the hill is actually believed to be one of the first Freemason lodges in Ireland. Let's start out with the origin story of this building and why it might already be a little haunted when the Hellfire Club starts to use it. Before the building was built, there was a pile of stones that marked a prehistoric grave. When the lodge was built, they actually took stones from the grave to build the lodge. Shortly after its completion, a windstorm blew off the roof from the lodge, and local superstition believed that it was the work of the devil, as punishment for interfering with a grave. Now, the Irish Hellfire Club was believed to be active from 1735 until 1741. Mount Pellier Lodge was the meeting place for the club. There were stories of wild parties, debauchery, occult practices, and demonic manifestations. This particular club was founded by a man named Richard Parsons, who was known for dabbling in black magic. He was allegedly named the King of Hell and would dress in horns, wings, and hooves. The members of the club would drink a drink called Scalfeen, which is a mixture of whiskey and hot butter, which sounds disgusting, not gonna lie. The club would leave one chair vacant at every club meeting, and this chair was being left vacant for the devil. Trigger warning if you plan on going any further, because the club did all kinds of really disturbing things. The club's mascot was a black cat, and the club was rumored to sacrifice cats and servants. It was well known that their meetings would often end in violence and even SA. One of the most famous stories of Mount Pellier Lodge was on a stormy evening, of course, when a stranger came up to the lodge. The members invited the stranger in for a card game, and one of the members dropped a card on the ground. When they went to pick up the card, they noticed that the stranger had cloven hooves rather than feet. The visitor then disappeared in a ball of flame. Other stories recount black masses where they would worship Satan and sacrifice cats. At one point, Mount Pellier Lodge was actually on fire, and there's a few tales as to how this may have happened. The lodge was actually being rented out to the members by a man named William Connolly. In one story, William's son did not want to renew the lease on renting out to this club, so the club set it on fire. Another rumor is that the club set the building on fire to give it a more hellish appearance. However, one of the more serious rumors of how this happened was that the club was holding a black mass. They were doing satanic rituals and worship when one of the members spilled a drink on another member named Whaley. Whaley apparently retaliated by pouring brandy all over the other member and setting him on fire. The fire then spread around the building and killed many members. Follow for part 3, and this is where the club starts to become extremely violent, so
the resemblance between Richard Parsons and Eddie Munson from Stranger Things is uncanny. It really is. Also, me and Boise will be going up to Hellfire Club within the next few months, so I will be putting that up on Instagram. But there's other things that will be going up on Instagram as well from me and Boise. So if you want to, you can go ahead and join us over there on Instagram at dm.react. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Pick and Mix Irish edition. I know it's a lot different from what I would usually cover, but I thought that it was important to try and show everyone the truth of what's happened over here in Ireland, as opposed to the general narrative and agendas that's being pushed around by the MSM. I'm really sorry if it comes across that we're racist and stuff like that. We're really not. We honestly aren't. But as this is trying to show people what's truly happening over here in this country when it comes to military-aged men who have no background checks and who have no identification with them. But if you've enjoyed this compilation, go ahead, smash that like button, that subscribe button, and also if you can go ahead and share as well, guys, so this can be reached out and branched out to as many people as possible. I'd greatly appreciate it. In terms of the schedule then, so starting from next week, it's going to be Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and that would be 9:15 Eastern time in the evening, or GMT time, London time, will be 2:15 a.m. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much. Look after yourselves. Stay safe, stay healthy. Know that I love you all so much, and I'll see you then.